Hello and welcome to the oddschecker betting show sponsored by Unibet. This is your Grand National Festival at Aintree Day 2 preview. I'm your host, George Elek. I'm delighted to be joined by Andy Holding. And we weren't joined by him for Day 1, but for Day 2 and Day 3 Grand National Day, we'll be joined by Johnny Ward as well. Great to have you both with us. We're recording this about an hour before Day 1 racing gets cracking. So forgive us, we can't talk about what we've seen thus far and what we've learnt so far. But Andy, from where you're sitting, you mentioned when we recorded the Day 1 preview yesterday, some uncertainty around the weather and the ground. Where are we? What does it look like we're going to get for the next 3 days?
Yeah, I was actually up by Aintree Racecourse last night. Actually, the back of Aintree Racecourse, adjacent to the Melling Road. I wasn't walking the course at 9:30 at night. I was actually doing an Aintree preview. And as I left the building about 10:30, I feared the worst because it was absolutely torrential. I got absolutely soaked trying to get a latte in McDonald's on the way home.
You can do better than McDonald's latte.
I would have thought.
To be fair, it was the only thing that was open.
It's just a white coffee there, isn't it?
But beggars can't be choosers. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it did the job anyway. Kept me awake on the way home. And I did fear the worst. But we've had sort of like blustery wind and the odd squally shower this morning. And looking at the guys on racing TV, it's set fair for the day, really. Now I think the sun's out and it's dried it up quite nicely. Good to soft in places on the national course. It certainly isn't a bigger concern for the likes of Banbridge and Nusrit, 2 ones, as I mentioned yesterday. If it did go the other way, they might be in a little bit of trouble. And so I just think we have to monitor today to see how it goes. But if it stays as it is, good to soft in places, I think that's just perfect for all, to be honest.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Johnny, where do you see, this is always an interesting festival in terms of a lot of people looking to take on festival form from Cheltenham. We're seeing some also come over from Ireland that we didn't see at the festival as well. How do you think this Aintree week is set?
Yeah, as a general rule, to be honest, George, I would be wary of backing shortish price favourites who had a hard race at Aintree, one of which I am going to tip. But I think the weekend we've had in Ireland with Willie Mullins having such dominance, and the fact that he's clearly taken his eye off Aintree with a view to Punchestown, I actually think in some respects that makes that'll make Gordon Elliott quite happy. I was at Gordon's for an Aintree launch last weekend, and he has quite a strong team. He's almost sending over everything that he feasibly can of his Cheltenham horses. And I think in some respects that makes it more interesting. It would make me worry for Punchestown in terms of how much of a bit of a one-man show that will be. But I think the big narrative going into Aintree, and I think it's fantastic that we've had so much rain lately because it just makes it so much easier for ground staff. The big narrative is that Willie isn't really targeting it at all.
Yeah, interesting. Gives everyone else a bit of a chance if Willie has his eye off the ball when it comes to Aintree. Unibet, our sponsors for this, they're offering more extra place races at Aintree this season than ever before. There'll be a handicap every day that has extra places and plenty others too. So make sure you check out their site for that. And they're also offering money back second or third on at least one race every day. So make sure you visit unibet.co.uk for more details. We'll be talking in terms of Unibet's prices across the card on Friday, starting with the 145, which is the Melbourne Novices Chase, where we have, and I'm going to come to you first here, Johnny, 5-6 favourite that had a tough race at Cheltenham in Gerri Colombe. Just touched off, maybe didn't lose too much in defeat there. And punters still gathering in their droves to back Gerri Colombe here for Gordon Elliott, 5-6. Bron is the second favourite at 100-30. Complete unknown, 11-2. Galliard de Lito, 8-1. Thomas Darby, 16-1. And Sherlock Jack is 40-1. Is this the one you're tipping, or is this one you're going to swerve?
This is exactly the one. I had my biggest bet at Cheltenham was on Gerri Colombe, and to be honest, it was kind of one of those bad beats that are bad losses anyway. It was I hadn't really been betting that Cheltenham going into this race, which is obviously early on the Wednesday. And the more I look back on it, and there was some sort of criticism of Jordan Gameford, I actually think the Real Whacker was extremely good on the day. And Gerri Colombe, the ground he made up from the last, maybe didn't jump quite as well as the Real Whacker, but he did come under pressure a little bit earlier maybe than I thought. And he's a horse that sort of only did enough, as was the case at Sandown. and the expectation that he would improve for the trip for me was borne out. He wasn't really actually getting up in the last. If you look after the line, I'm still not really sure he was actually getting up for to beat the Real Whacker. But I think the Real Whacker was exceptionally game. He was optimally ridden, and I thought Gerri Colombe lost nothing in defeat. I hope Davy Russell is going into the race on a better reign of form than he obviously was at Cheltenham. That would be a small concern, but he obviously holds Braun comfortably on that. I still think he's a really, really good staying type, and I'm happy to just about back him at the price here. I still think he will win.
Gerri Colombe 5 to 6, just about back up at the price, according to Johnny. Andy, do you agree?
I watched that race back at the festival many, many times. Probably one of the races of the festival. Certainly the time figures suggested that the Real Whacker served it up, as he often does, and made sure it was a real good test. And I think everyone, including Johnny, came out of that race thinking probably Gerri Colombe was the best prospect going forward for next season and beyond. And that's to take nothing away from the Real Whacker, because I think in his own right, he's going to be a Gold Cup horse, or certainly a Grade 1 horse of some distinction and repute next season over this side of the Irish Sea. Having watched that, like I say, I've watched it a few times. I actually gave Braun more credit the more I've watched that race than I did at first glance. He obviously tied on the running, but I think that's partly due to the fact that he was trying to eyeball the Real Whacker throughout, whereas Gerri Colombe had a much easier trip throughout in behind. Certainly up there, as soon as they met the hill, there was no doubt that the stamina that Gerri Colombe has got kicked in and allowed him to pull clear of Braun. I certainly bear that in mind. But I do think around this flatter track, now that he's probably almost certain to get an uncontested lead, because I don't see any of the horses in the race being natural front runners, he could just get into a decent enough rhythm here, Braun, to maybe get one or two of the others at it. And that includes Gerri Colombe, who did hit a few flat spots at Cheltenham at the crucial time in the race. And I think that's what will probably Paul Townend will try and achieve. I'm not saying he's definitely going to beat Gerri Colombe, but I think if he's ever going to do it, it's going to be around a track like this. And I think that's one of the reasons why Willie Mullins has decided to roll the dice at this meeting with him. He's thinking, well, he's not a puncher's down horse. It's too stiff a track, but, you know, he's got plenty of tactical speed. I don't mind running him here like he's running Zenta in the first race, a speed-based horse. I think that's what he's trying to achieve here this week. So at the prices, I would say 7 to 2 is probably too big for Braun, but I do think 6 to 4 with the favourite market could be a better option, because Gerri Colombe is obviously going to be odds on in that win market. Whereas you take him out of the equation, you're looking at Braun, you think, well, that's the best form line. I can get 6 to 4 him, and you know he could even beat Gerri Colombe. So you've got two safety nets to fall back on there. That's the way I would look at it. I'd be more keen on backing Braun at 6 to 4 without than I would odds on Gerri Colombe.
Yeah, that 6 to 4 without is a market price. Unibet will come out with their price, I'm sure, between now and the opening race about Braun without Gerri Colombe. 130 rather than 7 to 2 in the win market as well for Braun. So Braun, the one that Andy is siding with, and a couple of ways to do so. But Gerri Colombe, the fav for Johnny. On then to the 220, where we have the handicap hurdle with Camprond is the 6 to 1 favourite ahead of No Ordinary Joe at 8 to 1. Buddy 1, 9 to 1. Captain Combi 10 to 1, as is Dargiani and Fenner Cross 11 to 1. Jungle Jack, Good Risk at All, and Playful Saint both 12 to 1. 14 to 1 bar those. Andy?
Yeah, my dog has just popped his head round the door. Just wondering if he can come and help me find the winner of this race. I don't know. I don't know if there's a dog-related.
Is he called Joe?
He's called Mac. He's called Mac. So I don't think there's a Mac in this race. Is there a Mac? There's not. Obviously, Tony McCoy's not riding anymore. No. Anyway, let's get back onto more sensible matters.
Camprond starts with Cam, which is Mac backwards.
Oh, goodness me, that's amazing. And there'll be a lot of people that will side with Camprond, because the ground went against him, not for the first time in the Coral Cup, but once again he showed that he's in blinding good form by finishing third on ground that he absolutely detested. So he's going to be a very popular choice. I won't put you off him if you fancy him, albeit he's only 6 to 1-ish. The one I really like here with the capital R is Dargiani. Harry Durham has made a really good start to his training career, as you're probably all well aware of, and I think we're going to be hearing big things of him as time goes on. He's got that sort of feel to him, and similar to what Dan Skelton had when he started to progress through the ranks and get better horses. And this could be a real breakthrough moment for Harry. He's acquired this horse off Harry Whittington. Now, Harry got him off Paul Nicholls, and they thought at the time he was going to be at least a graded horse. Didn't quite materialise with Harry. He had one or two issues along the way. think he had ulcers and a few other internal issues that couldn't quite get ironed out. But Harry Durham seems to have found the key to him. He bolted up at Uttoxeter 2 runs ago. He beat a horse called West of the Bridge, who went to the Sandown next time out, and he destroyed a really good field. And Go Dante, who was 5th that day, he's won a couple of races subsequently. And D'Orhy, not only did he win at Newbury next time out and back up that run at Uttoxeter, he did it despite almost getting brought down at the second. One of Evan Williams's fell right directly in front of him. His legs got completely skittled from underneath him, and yet he still kept his poise and got back into the race on the bridle and ran away from a decent field. I massively upgraded that run. He only went up £7, but I thought he was massive value for a lot more than that. I think, put it this way, if he hadn't have got interfered with so badly, he would have won without coming off the bridle. And I think he would have gone up more than 7. So I think he's off a mark of 138. Now Harry's probably getting him to the kind of horse they originally thought he was going to be in the first place, i.e. a grade 3 horse at the very least. He could be very well handicapped here. He's got a cruising speed to die for, and he's got tons of scope. So he seems to be coming into this race in good heart, like a lot of Harry Durham's horses are. And at 10-1, I think he's a reasonably good each way bet with Unibet.
Unibet, yeah, 5th of 5 places as well for this one. D'Orhy, 10-1, the one for Andy. Johnny, how do you see this?
Yeah, I think that, you do need the 5 places. No Ordinary Joe and my selection, Buddy One clashing again. And I have to say, it looked fairly optimistic for Buddy One to be going over to Cheltenham to be running in the Martin Pipe. He'd had 6 starts in his entire career. He was only a 6-year-old, and he'd gone up from a mark of 102, his Irish mark, to 131 when he was running at Cheltenham. And he was sent off 28-1. You might think 28-1 is a huge price, but it was a 21 runner race. He absolutely cantered through the race. He went 1.6, I think, in the run, and then he was done by a horse, obviously touched over 200s in run that we'll talk about in due course. But I thought Jack Gilligan for me is a really, really good claimer as well. He's done very well, and he's still claiming 7. And there were 3 1/4 lengths clear at third. He, No Ordinary Joe, and Iroko. No Ordinary Joe obviously reopposed. I thought that was a really, really good run in the Martin Pipe. The Campron's gone up £5 for his run. Buddy One's gone up £4. It's not really an issue. And you got to look at what happened after last. He was all over the run-in when he probably should have won the race. He sort of started hanging badly left. I think at the end he started hanging right. He was probably a bit tired. But if you iron that out, it's only his 8th career start. And I think he's going to go off around about 9 or 10-1. I think he's quite solid. It's obviously really competitive, but he's quite a straightforward horse. I think he'll be up with the pace, stay out of trouble, and go very well.
Buddy One, 9-1, best price. So 2 there, 9-1, 10-1 from the guys. Buddy One and D'Orhy against maybe the bigger hitters in terms of the training ranks in that one. On to the 255 now, the third race on the card, where we've got the top novice hurdle, where Founder 50 is the 130 favourite, ahead of Luccia, of course, after that disappointing run at Cheltenham. Many people's kind of nap of the week, but didn't run up to standard at all. 7-2 in the pocket, 4-1. Alto Belly 9-1. Honback 9-1. 12-1 are those. And Andy, you're our novice hurdle man. Who stands out for you here?
Well, I think the standout piece of form is the one that was achieved by In the Pocket in the Supreme. The Supreme is a very good Supreme this year. All the right horses fought out the finish. We saw a good winner in Marine Nationale. The time figure was on par with the Champion Hurdle. The sectionals are on par with Constitution Hill. So I think it's wise to take a really strong view over it. It's just whether, of course, In the Pocket can back up that run only sort of 30 odd days after. And I think that's the big debate that rages when we look at races like this. In particular, this one, I think this is the one that is going to polarise opinion more than any race on this card, because you've got half of the field that's ran at Cheltenham and half the field which have been saved fresh from different angles. You've got Founder 50, obviously, has been a decent find over in Ireland, beat Corbett's, finished second at Corbett's Cross last time out. And then you've got a couple of horses that have been saved for this race, specifically having missed Cheltenham, in the shape of Alta Belly and Hullenbach. And I'm probably going to throw a couple of darts at those two, because I think the freshness angle is definitely worth considering, particularly when both horses could have gone to the festival. I know Hullenbach was entered in the Supreme until the last declaration stage, when discretion was very much the best part of Valor with his set of connections. And I think the fact that they've kept their powder dry has got to be some sort of advantage. He's looked really good on his last 2 runs. He beat Namian Line 2 runs ago at Haydock, around a similar track to Aintree, obviously sharp left-handed track, so we know he handles that. And obviously Namian Line's won since. He won a grade 2 at Kelso, beating a good field that day. And you know, he sauntered a victory last time out at Warwick, and we didn't really learn a great deal more. But it kept him ticking along. We know his well-being is still maintained, and I think he's probably better than the market suggests. And Altabelli was a horse I put up at the start of the season, if you recall. You probably don't, but I'll remind you that he was one of my 5 to follow. I expected him to be in graded company sooner rather than he is at the moment, but I think that's just down to Harry Fry's patience. He won by 25 lengths last time at Carlisle, but his time figure, even though he's eased down in the final half mile, was absolutely sensational, suggesting that he's definitely a graded horse in the making. And this is his acid test. I think the biggest compliment or the biggest hint that you could find with Altabelli running in this race is that he won over 2.5 last time at Carlisle, and he was entered in the 2.5 mile on Saturday, and yet Connections feel as though he's probably got enough speed to cope with this kind of company over the minimum trip here at Aintree. So if Harry Fry thinks he's a 2-miler, that's good enough for me. And again, I think he's definitely worth a look as well. So that's the way I'm playing it. I'm not necessarily avoiding the Cheltenham form, but I am going with 2 horses that come in here fresh, safe specifically for this meeting, who have done 2 big time figures recently. And I think the best is yet to come from either Altabelli or Hollenbach.
Both 9 to 1, Altabelli and Hollenbach there. Unibet paying extra place here as well at 5th to 4. Johnny?
I love this race. You might remember as well, Andy Hollenbach won a blinder in the bumper here at this festival last year.
He did, yeah. I forgot to point that out. Yeah, good shout.
So no concern with the course, and I love this race. I have to say, I think the fact that we've only really gotten the one main runner from the Supreme is good, because, and again, William Mullins doesn't really have an influence in it, so it's really open. I have to say, I do like Found a 50. Gordon was very sweet in this horse at his open day, and just looking back to the maiden hurdle that he won, he beat Parmenion by 9.5 lengths, with Tagman 15 lengths further back, so 34 lengths between them at Fairyhouse, and absolutely demolished everything in the field, bar Parmenion, who he beat by nearly 10 lengths. He's really weird, this horse. He's by Solskjaer, who's a Danehill half brother to Yates, and from my research, this horse has had no runners whatsoever to win on the track apart from this lad, Flatter National Hunt. He said very few runners on the ground. Solskjaer, I've no idea what happened to him as a stallion, but he obviously can get good horses, because this lad was then sent off favourite to beat Corbett's Cross. I know it was over 2 miles at Naas, but Corbett's Cross obviously possibly could have won the Albert Bartlett. There were 16 lengths clear at third in that race. He's very likely raced, this horse. He's loads of speed. He's going to be, according to Gordon, a really exciting chase for next season. I put him up in the odd checker kind of anti-post piece, or general entry piece. I think he was 5 to 1 at the time. He's coming to 7 to 2 now, but I do like him. I think he's going to run a blinder. He's only going to get better, and he travels really well in his races as well. He's loads of class and fascinating races. I think they're betting as well, like with so many likely raced horses. The 2 Andy mentioned around about 9 to 1. Really stepped into the big league. It's going to be fascinating. I would be probably happy to take on in the pocket. If you look back at Naas when he just touched off 3-card Bragg wouldn't be in the same league as his stablemate. I think Found a 50, and I just feel like he's beaten by Elek Thomas and in the Supreme as well. I think he's probably a little bit vulnerable now to something that's unexposed.
Found a 50, 100 to 30 there. Positive mention from Johnny, and taking on in the pocket 4 to 1, as we say, with that Supreme form that Andy is pretty keen to side with, although not here. We're taking 2 horses that come here fresh. On to the 330, I should say, the Marsh Chase, where Fakir D'Oudaries is the well, we've got joint 85 to 40 favourites. That is a price made for a decimal, but I am not a decimal man, so there we go. Fakir D'Oudaries and Pic D'Orhy, the 2 joint favourites there. Hitman 5 to 1, French Dynamite 8 to 1, Fugitive 10 to 1 alongside Miller's Bank, and Manella Drama 25 to 1. 7 runners here, frustratingly, for the each way players. But yeah, 2 at the top end of the market. Johnny, do you think the market's got this right as it is at the moment?
Yeah, like it's hard to be that confident about Fakir D'Oudaries. In the race last year, he smashed Hitman. He was sent off 10 to 11 favourite. So Royale was third, so it wasn't a particularly bad renewal of the race. But you'd have to say there are probably more kind of contenders here. The proviso with him is that they're trying cheap pieces on the back of 2 on the face of it. rather underwhelming performances. You know, he was lucky to win a Thurles, albeit he holds French Dynamite on that, and he was smashed by Shishkin and Ascot. I'm kind of prepared to forgive him that. He obviously skipped Cheltenham in that regard. He's a far bigger price than he was in the race last year, and maybe what he performed in the race last year, Andy will tell you more, would be good enough here. So I'm probably at the prices willing just about to chance him, but it's not a race we're getting heavily involved in.
Andy, how about yourself? How do you see it?
Yeah, the weather's going to determine whether I have a good crack at one in this race or not. I might still end up backing the horse I'm going to mention, but like I say, next 24 hours is going to be key for the chance of Fugitive, who will operate on good to soft ground, because he does like a bit of gear. But the softer the ground, the better his chances, as he proved at the festival. And he ran a career best for me when he finished second in the plate behind Seddon. It's a day where you needed to race handily. That new track is always the same. Prominent races obviously usually dominate proceedings there, and Seddon was always handy in second, whereas Fugitive was mid division towards the rear going out on the final circuit. And it's his final circuit time which leads me to believe that he's definitely a graded horse, because if you compare his final circuit numbers to Hitman, he actually comes out better. Now Hitman's chalked up 4-1 here, and he's a proven horse at this level, so it suggests to me that Fugitive's at least he's of Hitman's qualities. But yeah, he does probably prefer a little bit more dig in the ground, maybe what he might get. Fakir D'Oudaries, I've always been a big fan of him, but I'm not totally convinced by him so far this season, even though he's shown a fair level of form. But he got brushed aside rather readily at Ascot last time out. He's lucky the time before when the horse of Willie's fell at the last hoot on Kilore. There just hasn't seemed to be the same spark with him, and I'm definitely going to watch the first two races as we speak today at Aintree to see how the two Joseph O'Brien horses go in Banbridge and Nusrit, because he's only had one win in his last 30-odd runners, Joseph. The stable, like I say, just under a little bit of a cloud at the moment, as far as I could see. Pic D'Orhy, he bombed out here on his only run at Aintree, and is he a better horse going right-handed? He certainly likes a flat track, we know that, with his run behind Shishkin last time out, but all his best form seems to be going around the other way. So given that Fakir D'Oudaries and Pic D'Orhy take out huge chunks of the market with doubts over their overall form, like I say, it could be up for a little bit of a surprise. So I'll stick with Fugitive, but it's rather put in pencil with me rather than ink.
And so just to be clear for the listeners and viewers, what would you want between now and say 9 a.m. tomorrow morning to get that pen out and stick it down?
Just don't want it to dry up. I mean, I've looked at the weather map. There is rain forecast at Aintree tomorrow, more predominantly lunchtime onwards. So it's going to be one of those ones where you're going to have to wait. You're going to have to be patient. You don't have to dive in. I don't think his price is going to change too much. But those squally showers, which are bubbling up tomorrow in the afternoon, particularly in the Aintree area, that will determine whether he's a proper confident bet or just not a token bet, because I never bet anything as a token bet. But I'd be seriously, contemplating a decent wage on him if it changed the other way and went soft.
10-1 Fugitive is at this stage, as I say, 7 runners. So be careful before you place each way bet, because you will just get the 2 places. On then to the 405, it is of course the Topham, where Guess Killy is the 8-1 favourite ahead of Ashtown Lad at 9-1. Final Orders 10-1. Al Dancer and Il Ridotto and Hawthorne Color and Burrows Saint all 12-1. Upping the ante 14s. Equus Dancer 16-1. 18-1 bar those. Unibet currently paying 6 places, a 5th to 6th for this one. Andy, who do you fancy in the Topham?
Yeah, I'll just keep this fairly straightforward in theory anyway. I've put up late night pass in the Aintree Fox Hunters as we speak today, and I'm hoping he'll go well based on the fact that he's run well in that race on the last 2 years. And I'm a big advocate for horses that have been over the track before and obviously been targeted this race again. Always Waning won it 3 years on the spin, for instance. The horse of Joe Tizard's won it back to back, didn't he? Ultra Gold recently. So I'm just going to stick with Jiskill and Al Dancer. They fought out the finish of the Sefton early on in the season. Al Dancer just coming out the better of the two, and they've been saved specifically for this race. Obviously, Al Dancer hasn't run since, but that doesn't bother me, because he won for Fresh first time up this year, and we know that Sam Thomas has done really well with his chaser this year, as our power proved when he won the Kempton race not so long ago. And we know that also Oliver Greenall his horses have taken their game to a new level, courtesy of Iroko in the boys' race. So it's fairly straightforward. It's unoriginal, but 8-1 for Jesquiel, 6 places, 10-1 for Al Dancer. Surely to God, one of those will be in the first 6 with a clear round, and you never know, the Jack might come up with one of them getting the head in front.
Yeah, 8-1 and 10-1, those two. I think you said it's not exciting, but two pretty decent prices.
No, it's not. It's not rocket science by any stretch of the imagination.
If you hit the winner and get a place, we're happy with that.
Yeah.
Johnny.
Yeah, similar mind. I'm going to go with Jesquiel here, and obviously shown the time after how much he loves Aintree. I imagine he's been prepped for this, and I'm going to be briefing this well. Bazio was second in the race last year. He ran an absolute blinder. He didn't run particularly well on his comeback run, but I imagine that was an absolute means to an end for Ted Walsh with his Aintree team, and he's a big price as well with 6 places. So I'll go with Jesquiel and Bazio for 2 against the field.
Yeah, so both the guys Jesquiel there 8-1 and Bazio 16-1 as it is now. So quick selections there in the top, and 2 more to preview on the card on Friday at Aintree. We have the Sefton Novices Hurdle next up, where Stay Away Faye is the 11-4 favourite ahead of Absolute Notions at 3-1. Iroko 11-2, Maximilian 11-2, Grey Dawning 9-1, Apple Away 10-1, Blackenstop 12-1, 18-1 bar those. And Johnny, this is an occasion where you've got a couple of Cheltenham Festival heroes returning after what must have been a pretty exerting time at Prestbury Park. What's your view in terms of how the market looks here?
Certainly exerting if you're the layer of Iroko at over 200-1 as he drop out of the places almost jumping the last. Yeah. Really incredible watching it back, and just listening to the lads afterwards, referenced there by Andy, whoever the quote was from was like, he doesn't really show us much at home, but I thought Aidan Kelly was brilliant on him, because it was a question of kind of waiting for that spurt up the hill. Now he's a little bit flattered in the sense that Buddy 1 was kind of drifting all over the track, but it was a fair old burst of pace from the last, and it's a fairly simplistic view of things, but I mean, you're looking at that and thinking if they can keep him kind of swinging along over 3 miles, he's still a bit of a blank canvas. I think he's fascinating here, and I'm happy to take a chance at the prices. I actually think that Stay Away Faye, they got the lining of the track probably a little bit wrong in the Albert Bartlett and Corbett's Cross and Lucky. I think it took a little bit away from Stay Away Faye, who was so inexperienced going into the race, and he was sent off 18-1, but I kind of think he would have won anyway. For me, he looked like he was staying on plenty up the hill, and I definitely give him a chance. Also, Absolute Notions. I don't think Good Land ran his race at Cheltenham, and we'd obviously Cool Survivors let the form down as well. So maybe you're looking at that Leopardstown race, the Dublin Racing Festival, and saying that Deep Cave didn't run well as well. You're looking at form being let down, but I think Absolute Notions is coming here very, very fresh. I think that's definitely going to improve for the trip as well. There are 3 really fascinating runners for me, but I'm going to go with Iroko at the prices. He's only a 5-year-old. I think he will love the trip, and I just love the way he finished the race at Cheltenham.
Iroko 11-2 to double up on that win at Cheltenham here at Aintree. Andy?
Yeah, my view with Iroko is that the triple definitely playing to his strengths. He just doesn't want to hit that flat spot like he did at Cheltenham. As Johnny's pointed out, he looked as though he was floundering 2 out, and it was that long run to the last which definitely played into his strengths. A little bit tighter here for room. It might not give him the same luxury. So that'd be my only concern with him. Look, I'm going to keep this again as simple as I possibly can. I'm going back to the River Don form at Doncaster. We saw Stay Away Faye advertise the credentials at Grade 2 on Town Moor with his victory in the Albert Bartlett. I don't think there's anything fluky about his performance at Cheltenham. And the horse that beat him fair and square on the day, to my eyes, was Maximilian. Straight away after that race, all eyes turned to something like the Albert Bartlett, but Donna McCain batted it away and said, no, we're going to wait for Aintree. Probably citing the fact that he wants a sharper track, or he wants predominantly better ground. And if the rain does keep away, then he's definitely got bright prospects of going very close. I just don't see anything wrong with his profile. Since he had a wind operation, obviously he's been very good. And he's run top before that. Was a good run in a Grade 2 at Sandown on softish ground beyond Henry II. It certainly wasn't any harm in finishing third to a good horse like that. So, yeah, he looks fairly solid to me at 11-2. And the other one to mention is a horse that finished third in the River Don. He's a massive price here. Hurricane Bay, I can't understand it. He was on the sharp end all the way
40
through.
40-1.
Yeah, he's 40-1. He's just crazy price. Like I say, if you go back and watch that Donny race, he was on the sharp end all the way through that race. he was trying to chase that thing of Patrick Neville's that went off in front, and I can't believe he hung in there as much as he did, and yet he was still coming back on the running. I mean, he actually fought out the finish with those 2 good horses. He subsequently won, as he should have done, next time out. He's had a nice little break since then, 51 days. Missed Cheltenham. Answers on a postcode why he's 50 to 1. I can't, or 40 to 1. I can't quite get my head around that. So I'm playing the 2 against the field. Maximilian, strong each way at 11 to 2, 4 places, and definitely not going to leave Hurricane Bay alone at that price either.
Hurricane Bay 40 to 1 there, 4 places, as Andy says. Unibet are paying Maximilian 11 to 2. And on to the last race on the card on Friday. It is the conditional race, the Amateur Riders Handicap Hurdle, where we have got Go Dante is the 7-1 favourite with Nibiru, and you can help me with the pronunciation for this one, Johnny. Goth Chuil at 8 to 1. Paramount is 17 to 2, JPR 1 17 to 2, 10 to 1, Knickerbocker Glory and Densworth. Glan 11 to 1, Washington 11 to 1. Unibet paying 5 places here. Open as you'd expect, Johnny. Can you give us your fancies in the lucky last?
Yeah, its pronunciation is Gui Kuel. Not entirely sure what Kuel wins. Gui is wind, so it's like a gust of wind, something or other. But a horse by Harzand, who's obviously improved a lot. I remember laying this horse to place at Tremor when it only won, thinking that it wouldn't stay the 2-5, but it's actually improved for the trip, and it's up markedly in grade here. Just one horse to mention here. I did find this difficult. Like, English handicappers wouldn't necessarily be, my thing. But Glan is a horse that I find absolutely perplexing, because when she won at Fairy House round about this time last year, she was sent off 4 to 1 subsequently at Punchestown behind Felix Deji in a 17-runner race, when she looked like she was travelling well and an accident befell her. The next day then she was sent off 8 to 1 at Killarney, which meant absolutely no sense whatsoever. She was effectively running in a weaker race, and she'd come there on the back of a win and an incident that shouldn't have had any harm. She was desperately weak in the betting, and she was beaten 68 lengths. Then she rocked up in the Galway Hurdle, was 33 to 1 and was an eye-catching 4th. And then she rocked up at List. I definitely think off this mark, and I'm willing to just literally back her win here, because she's run off 134. If you look at her performance when she won at Fairy House this time last year off an Irish 123, the way she really won with plenty in hand that day, I'm willing to give her one more chance. I'm fascinated that Gordon comes over here. Not going to back her each way, because she seems to have 6 ways of running, but if she's the one way of running here, I think she's definitely well handicapped, and that man Aidan Kelly in the saddle.
11 to 1 Glan is this moment there for Johnny, a win-only bet in the last. Andy?
Yeah, probably my weakest race of the day regards strong views. Certainly respect Johnny's pick, Glan. I could see why he's gone for her. She's definitely a talented mare when she's on song. Just a little bit of a word for Ben Pawney's horse in this race, Densworth. Good for Palamine. Ollie Alton owns this horse. He owns Bangers and Cash as well. They've had a real good season with their horses in these colours, and he's been targeted at this race for quite some time, obviously, with the belief or the hope that Luca Morgan can ride, and Luca's taken the ride off a mark of 124. He ties in with Hurricane Bay, funny enough. He ran against Hurricane Bay 2 runs ago, over 2.5 miles. He just got outstayed by Lucy Wadham's horse. So if Hurricane Bay runs well in the previous race, like I predict he will, then that's definitely a form line boosted. And they dropped him back to 2 miles last time out. He was in full command when his main market rival, Gitchy Gimme, fell at the last. And Gitchy Gimme had run well the time before behind Hollenbach. So he's been running against horses who know the time of day and have been running in graded races, or got collateral form in graded races. I think he's quite well treated. He'll handle the ground, he'll handle the track, but obviously you need a lot of looking running. And whether he's good enough and there's better handicapped horses, I wouldn't know. But hopefully Densworth will give his connections a good spin.
Densworth 10 to 1, Andy's selection there. So 10 to 1 Densworth, 11 to 1 Glan in the last. That brings our Friday preview to a close. We're about to record Saturday preview, including the Grand National, in just a second. So make sure you go over and check out the oddschecker YouTube channel. Subscribe there, and you can find all of our oddschecker betting shows there. And thank you to our sponsors, Unibet, as ever, for their support. Make sure you go and check out unibet.co.uk now, where you can find the extra place races, more of those this Aintree than ever before. Every handicap race and others there too, and money back if your horse finishes second or third on at least one race every day. So do go and check that out. Thank you to Andy and to Johnny. Hopefully a couple of winners in there. Enjoy the racing, and please do ensure that you gamble responsibly.